Chapter 3, The Link Up. Inside the great glass elevator, there was also a good deal of excitement. Charlie and Mr. Wonka and all the others could see clearly the huge silvery shape of Space Hotel USA about a mile ahead of them. And behind them was a smaller, but still pretty enormous, transport capsule. The gray glass elevator, not looking at all great now beside these two monsters, was in the middle. And of course, everybody, even Grandma Josephine, knew very well what was going on. They even knew that the three astronauts in charge of the transport capsule were called Shucksworth, Shanks, and Shower. The whole world knew about these things. Newspapers and television have been shouting about almost nothing else for the past 6 months. Operation Space Hotel was the event of the century. What a load of luck, cried Mr. Wonka. We've landed ourselves slap in the middle of the biggest space operation of all time. We've landed ourselves in the middle of a nasty mess, said Grandma Josephine. Turn back at once. No, Grandma, said Charlie. We've got to watch it now. We must see the transport capsule linking up with the space hotel. Mr. Wonka floated right up close to Charlie. Let's beat him to it, Charlie, he whispered. Let's get there first and go aboard the space hotel ourselves. Charlie gasped. Then he gulped. Then he said softly, It's impossible. You've got to have all sorts of special gadgets to link up with another spacecraft, Mr. Wonka. My elevator could link up with a crocodile if it had to, said Mr. Wonka. Just leave it to me, my boy. Grandpa Joe, cried Charlie. Did you hear that? We're going to link up with the space hotel and go on board. Yippee! Shouted Grandpa Joe. What a brilliant thought, sir. What a staggering idea. He grabbed Mr. Wonka's hand and started shaking it like a thermometer. Be quiet, you balmy old bat, said Grandma Josephine. We're in a hot enough stew already. I want to go home. Me too, said Grandma Georgina. What if they come after us? Said Mr. Bucket, speaking for the first time. What if they capture us? Said Mrs. Bucket. What if they shoot us? Said Grandma Georgina. What if my beard were made of green spinach? Cried Mr. Wonka. Come, and tummy rot. You'll never get anywhere if you go about what-ifing like that. Would Columbus have discovered America if he'd said, what if I sink on my way over? What if I meet pirates? What if I never come back? He won't even have started. We won't know what-ifers around here, right, Charlie? Off we go then. But wait, this is a tricky amount of verbs, and we're going to need help. There are 3 lots of buttons we have to press all in different parts of the elevator. I shall take those 2 over there, the white and the black. Mr. Wonka made a funny blowing noise with his mouth and glided effortlessly like a huge bird across the elevator to the black and white buttons. And there he hovered. Grandpa Joe, sir, kindly station yourself beside the silvery button there. Yes, that's the one. And you, Charlie, go up and stay floating beside that little golden button near the ceiling. I must tell you that each of these buttons fire booster rockets from different places outside the elevator. That's how we change direction. Grandpa Joe's rockets turn us to starboard to the right. Charlie's turn us to port to the left. Mine make us go higher or lower or faster or slower. All ready? No, wait, cried Charlie, who was floating exactly midway between the floor and the ceiling. How do I get up? I can get up to the ceiling. He was splashing his arms and legs violently, like a drowning swimmer, but getting nowhere. My dear boy, said Mr. Wonka, you can't swim in this stuff. It isn't water, you know. It's air and very thin air at that. There's nothing to push against. So you have to use jet propulsion. Watch me. First, you take a deep breath. Then you make a small round hole with your mouth and you blow as hard as you can. If you blow downward, you jet propel yourself up. If you blow to the left, you shoot off to the right and so on. You maneuver yourself like a spacecraft by using your mouth as a booster rocket. Suddenly, everyone began practicing this business of flying about, and the whole elevator was filled with the blowings and snortings of the passengers. Grandma Regina, in her red flannel nightgown with two skinny bare legs sticking out the bottom, was trumpeting and spinning like a rhino's and flying from one side of the elevator to the other, shouting, "Out of my way! Out of my way!" and crashing into poor Mr. and Mrs. Bucket with terrible speed. Grandpa Joe and Grandma Georgina were doing the same. And well, may you wonder what the millions of people doing on Earth were thinking as they watched these crazy happenings on their television screens. You must realize that they couldn't see things very clearly. The great glass elevator was only about the size of a grapefruit on their screens, and people inside, slightly blurred through the glass, were no bigger than the pips of the grapefruit. Even so, the watchers below could see them buzzing about wildly like insects in a glass box. "What in the world are they doing?" shouted the President of the United States, staring at the screen. "Looks like some kind of a war dance, Mr. President," answered Astronaut Shower over the radio. "You mean the Red Indians," said the President. "I didn't say that, sir." "Oh, yes, you did, Shower." "Oh, no, I didn't, Mr. President." "Silence," said the President. "You're muddling me up." Back in the elevator, Mr. Wonka was saying, "Please, please, do stop flying about. Keep still, everybody, so we can keep on with the docking." "You miserable mackerel," said Grandma Georgina, sailing past him. "Just when we were having a bit of fun, you want to stop it." "Look at me, everybody," shouted Grandma Josephine. "I'm flying. I'm a golden eagle." "I can fly faster than any of you," cried Grandpa Joe, whizzing round and round, his nightgown billowing out behind him like the tail of a parrot. "Grandpa George," cried Charlie, "do please calm down. If we don't hurry, those astronauts will get there before us. Don't you want to see inside the space hotel, any of you?" "Out of my way," shouted Grandma Georgina, blowing himself back and forth. "I'm a jumbo jet." "You're a balmy old bat," said Mr. Wonka. In the end, the old people grew tired and out of breath, and everyone settled quietly into a foot position. "All set, Charlie and Grandpa Joe, sir?" said Mr. Wonka. "All set, Mr. Wonka," Charlie answered, hovering near the ceiling. "I'll give the orders," said Mr. Wonka. "I'm the pilot. Don't fire your rockets until I tell you. And don't forget who is who. Charlie, you report. Grandpa Joe, your starboard." Mr. Wonka pressed one of his own two buttons, and immediately booster rockets began firing underneath the great glass elevator. The elevator leaped forward, but swerved violently to the right. "Hard up forward," yelled Mr. Wonka. Charlie pressed his button. His rockets fired. The elevator swung back into line. "Steady as you go," cried Mr. Wonka. "Starboard 10 degrees. Steady, steady. Keep her there." Soon they were hovering directly underneath the tail of the enormous Silvery Space Hotel. "You see that little square door with the bolts on it?" said Mr. Wonka. "That's the docking entrance. Won't be long now. Port a fraction. Steady. Starboard a bit. Good, good. Easy does it. We're nearly there." To Charlie, it felt rather as though he were in a tiny rowboat beneath the stern of the biggest ship in the world. The space hotel towered over them. It was enormous. "I can't wait," thought Charlie, "to get inside and see what it's like." Chapter 4. The President. Half a mile back, Shucksworth, Shanks, and Shore were keeping the television camera aimed all the time at the glass elevator. And across the world, millions and millions of people were clustered around their TV screens, watching intensely the drama being acted out 240 miles above the earth. In his study in the White House sat Lancelot R. Gilligas, President of the United States of America, the most powerful man on earth. In this moment of crisis, all his most important advisors had been summoned urgently to his presence, and they were all there now, following closely on the giant television screen every move made by this dangerous-looking glass capsule and its 8 desperate-looking astronauts. Their entire cabinet was present. The chef of the army was there, together with 4 other generals. There was the chief of the Navy and the chief of the Air Force, and a sword swallow from Afghanistan, who was the president's best friend. There was the president's chief financial advisor, who was standing in the middle of the room trying to balance the budget on top of his head, but it kept falling off. Standing nearest of all to the president was the vice president, a huge lady of 89 with a whiskery chin. She had been the president's nurse since he was a baby, and her name was Mrs. Tibbs. Mrs. Tibbs was the power behind the throne. She stood no nonsense from anyone. Some people said she was as strict with the president now as when he was a little boy. She was the terror of the White House, and even the head of the Secret Service broke into a sweat when summoned to her presence. Only the president was allowed to call her Nanny. The president's famous cat, Mrs. Tapsypuss, was also in the room. There was absolute silence now in the presidential study. All eyes were riveted on the TV screen as a small glass object with its booster rockets firing slid smoothly up behind the great glass hotel. Space Hotel. They're going to link up, shouted the president. They're going on board our hotel. They're going to blow it up, cried the chief of the army. Let's blow them up first. Crash, bang, wallop, bang, 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 bang. The chief of the army was wearing so many metal ribbons that covered the entire front of his tunic on both sides and spread down onto his trousers as well. Come on, Mr. P, he said. Let's have some super-duper explosions. Silence, you silly boy, said Mrs. Tibbs, and the chief of the army slunk into a corner. Listen, said the president. The point is this. Who are they, and where did they come from? Where's my chief spy? Here, sir, Mr. President, sir, said the chief spy. He had a fake mustache, a fake beard, false eyelashes, false teeth, and a falsetto voice. Knock, knock, said the president. Who's there? Said the chief spy. Quarterary. Quarterary who? Quarterly one yet? Said the president. There was a brief silence. The president asked you a question, said Mrs. Tibbs in an icy voice. Have you quarterly one yet? No, ma'am, not yet, said the chief spy, beginning to twitch. Well, here's our chance, snarled Mrs. Tibbs. Quite right, said the president. Tell me immediately who those people are in that glass capsule. Aha, said the chief spy, twirling his false mustache. That is a very difficult question. You mean you don't know? I mean, I do know, Mr. President. At least I think I do. Listen, we have just launched the finest hotel in the world, right? Right. And who's so madly jealous of this wonderful hotel of ours that he wants to blow it up? Miss Tibbs, said the president. Wrong, said the chief spy. Try again. Well, said the president, thinking deeply, in that case, could it not perhaps be some other hotel owner Who is envious of our lovely hotel? Brilliant, cried the chief spy. Go on, sir, you're getting warm. It's Mr. Stavry, said the president. Warmer and warmer, Mr. President. Mr. Heeds. You're hot, sir. You're boiling hot. Go on. I've got it, cried the president. It's Mr. Hilton. Well done, sir, said the chief spy. Are you sure, Tim? Not sure, but it's certainly a warm possibility, Mr. President. After all, Mr. Hilton's got hotels in just about every country in the world, but he hasn't got one in space, and we have. He must be madder than a maggot. My gum will soon fix this, snapped the president, grabbing one of the 11 telephones on his desk. Hello, he said into the phone. Hello, hello, hello. Where's the operator? He jiggled furiously on the little thing you jiggle when you want the operator. Operator, where are you? They won't answer you now, said Miss Tibbs. They're not watching television. Well, this one will answer, said the president, snatching up a bright red telephone. This was the hotline direct to the premier of Soviet Russia in Moscow. It was always open and only used in terrible emergencies. It's just as likely to be the Russians as Mr. Hilton, the president went on. Don't you agree, Nanny? It's bound to be the Russians, said Miss Tibbs. Premier Yugov speaking, said a voice from Moscow. What's your mind, Mr. President? Knock, knock, said the president. Who's there? Said the Soviet premier. Warren. Warren who? War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, said the president. Let's see here, Yugov. You get those astronauts of yours off that space hotel of ours this instant. Otherwise, I'm afraid we're going to have to show you just where to get off, Yugov. Those astronauts are not Russians, Mr. President. He's lying, said Miss Tibbs. You're lying, said the president. Not lying, sir, said Premier Yugov. Have you looked closely at those astronauts in the glass box? I myself see them not too clearly on my TV screen, but one of them, the little one with the pointed beard and a top hat, has a distinctly Chinese look about him. In fact, he reminds me very much of my friend, the Prime Minister of China. Great garbage, cried the president, slamming down the red phone, picking up a porcelain one. The porcelain phone went direct to the head of the Chinese Republic at Peking. Hello, 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 said the president. Wings Fish and Vegetable Store in Shanghai, said a small, distant voice. Mr. Wings speaking. Nanny, cried the president, banging down the phone. I thought this was a direct line to the premier. It is, said Miss Tibbs. Try again. The president picked up the receiver. Hello, he yelled. Mr. Wang speaking, said a voice at the other end. Mr. Who? Screamed the president. Mr. Wang, assistant station master, Chongqing. And if you are asking about 10 o'clock 10, no, nothing today. Boiler bust. The president threw the phone across the room at the postmaster general. It hit him in the stomach. What's the matter with this thing? Shouted the president. It is very difficult to phone people in China, Mr. President, said the postmaster general. The country's so full of wings and wongs. Every time you wing, you get the wrong number. You're not kidding, said the president. The postmaster general replaced the telephone on the desk. Try it just once more, Mr. President, please, he said. I tightened the screws underneath. The president picked up the receiver. Greetings, Honorable Mr. President, said a soft, faraway voice. This is Assistant Premier Chu on that speaking. How can I do for you? Knock, knock, said the president. Who did? Ginger. Ginger who? Ginger yourself much when you fell off the Great Wall of China? Said the president. Okay, Chu on that. Let me speak to Premier. How you been? Much regret, Premier. How you been? Not here just a second, Mr. President. Where is he? He outside mending a puncture on his bicycle. Oh, no, he isn't, said the president. You can't fool me, you crafty old Mandarin. At this very minute, he's boarding our magnificent space hotel with 7 other rascals to blow it up. Excuse, please, Mr. President. You make big mistake. No mistake, barked the president. And if you don't call them off right now, I'm going to tell my chief of the army to blow them all sky high. So chew on that, chew on that. Hooray, said the chief of the army. Let's blow everyone up. Bang, 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 bang. Silence, barked Mrs. Tibbs. I've done it, cried the chief financial advisor. Look at me, everybody. I've balanced the budget. And indeed he had. He stood proudly in the middle of the room with the enormous $200 billion budget balanced beautifully on the top of his bald head. Everybody clapped. Then suddenly, the voice of astronaut Shucksworth cut in urgently on the radio loudspeaker in the president's study. They've linked up and gone on board, shouted Shucksworth. And they've taken in the bed. I mean the bomb. The president sucked in his breath sharply. He also sucked in a big fly that happened to be passing that time. He choked. Miss Tibbs thumped him on the back. He swallowed the fly and felt better. But he was very angry. He seized pencil and paper and began to draw a picture. As he drew, he kept muttering, I won't have flies in my office. I won't put up with them. His advisors waited eagerly. They knew that the great man was about to give the world yet another of his brilliant inventions. The last had been the gilly-glass left-handed corkscrew, which had been hailed by left-handers across the nation as one of the greatest blessings of the century. There you are, said the president, holding up the paper. This is the gilly-glass patient fly trap. They all crowded around to look. The fly climbs up the ladder on the left, said the president. He walks on the plank. He stops. He sniffs. He smells something good. He peers over the edge and sees the sugar lump. Aha, he cries. Sugar! He is just about to climb down the string to reach it when he sees it's in a basin of water below. Ho ho, he says. It's a trap. They want me to fall in. So he walks on, thinking what a clever fly he is. But as you see, I have left out one of the rugs in the ladder he goes down by, so he falls and breaks his neck. Tremendous, Mr. President, they exclaimed. Fantastic, a stroke of genius. I wish to order 100,000 for the army immediately, said the chief of the army. Thank you, said the president, making a careful note of the order. I repeat, said the frantic voice of Shucksworth over the loudspeaker. They've gone on board and taken the bomb with them. Stay well clear of them, Shucksworth, ordered the president. There's no point in getting your boys blown up as well. And now, all over the world, the millions of watchers waited more intensely than ever in front of the television sets. The picture on their screens, in vivid color, showed the sinister little glass box securely linked up to the underbelly of the gigantic space hotel. It looked like some tiny baby animal clinging to its mother, and when the camera zoomed closer, it was clear for them to see that the glass box was completely empty. All 8 of the Esperantos had climbed into the space hotel, and they had taken their bomb with them.